but it's going to lead to a meeting, a coordination meeting with our city team to make sure that we've done a full and comprehensive review of the permit. If for no other reason, one of the things that the coordination side of it is very, very important. So once you're mapped out, you know what you want to do, to meet with us, because we've got to protect our city staff as well, right? If we have 2 or 3 police officers at an event and there's an outbreak of some sort, something that happens outside of the protocol, it creates challenges on both sides of the ledger. So that level of cooperation and being ready for these coordinating meetings so that we don't drag this thing out in some ways going to be really, really important. So why don't we turn it over now and just kind of go step by step through this permit process, right?
First, we're going to focus in on the sector rules for outdoor events. So working within the state guidance as it relates to COVID and reopening. You'll see the context here. This is the same for all different sector guidances. It's safety first, science driven. We work to be prepared. Everybody has the choice as to what makes sense within these rules. It doesn't mean you have to do it, but if you're going to do it, you need to follow these rules. And we will work to make things work for each setup or context. So just moving along. We are currently in phase 2 of reopen. That started on June 17th. We moved from limits on all events to 10 or fewer, no matter where you were, to indoor events up to 25 individuals. Outdoor gatherings moved up to 100. The caveat for that is religious gatherings had a little bit more flexibility. And we began to allow low and moderate risk sports like tennis. On July 3rd, there was another pivot, which allowed outdoor public organized gatherings up to 500. I joke and say this is the fireworks rule. It doesn't work for all outdoor events because it's based on the thought of the beach. It is a blanket to blanket setup. So it's not like a festival where you're walking around and, this is a structured setup that gets you up to the 500. And outdoor private gatherings at this point are at 100 people, with the exception of graduations. They have a one-time allowance of up to 150 people. Just this week, we pivoted on sports. High-risk sports like football and soccer are now permittable. We have begun to permit our athletic fields and our pavilions. So there was talk of a phase 3 for later this month, but based upon the trends happening nationally, the governor has paused that because we don't want to see a spike here in Connecticut. So for now, these are the limits that exist for events. Again, that's 25 indoors, 100 outdoors for private gatherings, and 500 outdoors in public gatherings. But again, that is based on the structure and requires that blanket to blanket type setup. And we'll go into that a little bit. Moving along, there's just a basic things that you think of for any sector of opening. Strict cleaning and disinfecting protocols, making sure that you're marketing that this is for not something for high-risk groups. If you are high risk, you have comorbidities, asthma, heart disease, are over the age of 65, you shouldn't be coming out for a public event. Masks should be worn at all times and need to be made available. And really trying to track participants is really important in all of this. So continuing on, as you plan an event, you need to figure out what your plan is if somebody arrives and it is symptomatic. How you enforce social distancing through signage, and how you keep track of employees, volunteers, and potentially participants. Continuing on. All employees and event attendees should wear a mask or face covering. Again, that is over the nose. And, you know, the 6 feet social distancing should be enforced. Entry and exit, you should consider having a single flow for traffic, having the entry and exit separated and delineated. And you need to create an emergency contingency plan. We might give you a permit, but anything can happen, and that permit can be pulled in a moment's notice if the health conditions dictate. You know, in March, we had a meeting with the St. Patrick's Day Parade on Friday, and we're canceling them on Monday. It is important to understand that you need to be flexible. Continuing on. Where possible, you want to have registration, and when you're ticketing an event, make sure it is contactless or digital ticketing where possible. Staggering ingress and virtual queuing, so having people arrive at different times is very important. Obviously, a lot of events have food. Sector rules for food should be followed. They have their own set of guidance. And hand sanitizer. It is starting to be available again. Everybody needs to have it and have a lot of it, and you need to make it available at your events. Continuing on. You need to have disinfectant products. You need to be able to wipe down commonly used surfaces and chairs, bathrooms, tables. Bathrooms need to be cleaned and disinfected frequently. You need to implement the use of a cleaning log. You'll see out at the beach now, there is a lot of staff there just to clean the bathrooms. Performers are exempt from wearing face masks when they are performing, but unlike the 6 feet of social distancing, you need 12 feet of social distancing, not only from the audience, but between the performers themselves. In sports, there's another set of guidance specifically for sports. They are governed by both those rules for the sport and for the outdoor gathering for the spectators. Moving on to the event permit. Kayla's going to go through both our traditional permit process and the modifications during this pandemic. Kayla.
Good morning, everyone. Hello. As Becky said, I handle the Special Events Logistics Committee. Many of you I see on here have attended a meeting before, so hello again. We've broken this down into 6 steps for planning a great and safe city event. So I'm going to go through those 6 steps with you now. The first one is location. So to make it simple, if you're in a park, a city park, or a field, you need a parks permit. That can go through, as you see, Phyllis's emails there, her phone number's there. My suggestion is give the Parks Department a call before you put the permit through, because they're able to tell you if it's available and even worth filling everything out. You also can scan that permit to Phyllis as well. So that's if it's in a park. If you want to have the pavilion, that all goes to the Parks Department. If you're going to be on a city street or sidewalk, that is going to be a special events permit. That's through City Squared. You can do that online. You will have to register the first time you apply for a permit, but then any other time you will just have that login and you'll be good to go on City Squared. So this requires, as you can see, it's a special event requirements award number, and whatever street that you are requesting to close, if you are requesting to close it, you're going to need 50% of the residents and businesses to sign off on that street closure. If you are in a park and you need to close down a street, so if you've got the green and you want to close Temple Street to put food trucks on it, you would need a parks permit because the green is a park, and you also need a special events permit because you're going into the street then as well. So sometimes you need both, sometimes you need just one or the other. So next is, for me, the one that took the longest to understand, is health and selling. I'm not sure if Brian's on to help me through this, but Director Bond is here as well. So
Here, yeah.
we'll make it through this. So say you want to have a block party and you want to make food there, but you don't do this all the time. You don't need a catering license. You just need this for one day. That's where you ask for a temporary food service packet, that first one there. You can apply for that. They go through the process at the health department, and you're approved to have food at your event for that one day. So itinerant vendor is anything that, as you can see, is self-contained on wheels. So that's your food trucks and your food carts. Generally speaking, this is not something that you need to do, but you need to make sure that your food truck or food cart that is there is a licensed vendor in the city of New Haven. You can certainly call and ask the health department if they're licensed in New Haven, and that makes it a little bit easier for you. If they're not licensed in New Haven, you need to make sure your food truck or food cart goes through that process. So vending is anything that you're selling. If you have food and you plan to sell the food, you also need a vending license. And that, as you can see, is on City Squared as well. So when you have that login to do a special event permit, you also could do a vending permit there as well. That, again, is whenever you're selling something. It doesn't even have to be food. And then your catering license is if you plan to have, this is a year-long thing, and that's if you plan to have multiple times that you are preparing food. How did I do, Director Bond? Is that okay?
You did great. I think the only thing I would add is that we tried to simplify the process, and we created a workflow that you can find on the health department website.
Okay. Here's a little chart here. Like I said, the easiest thing to remember is if you're selling something, you need a vending license, even if it's glow sticks and it's not food, you need a vending license. Anything food related has to have some sort of license or permit. Okay, thank you. Like I said, the non-food merchandise, that's the same thing. You can do a vending umbrella license. If your event is having alcohol, that needs to, thank you, Elena, for putting this information in here. That has to go through the state as well. So that's a little bit longer of a process. You need to make sure you start pretty early if you plan to have alcohol there. If you're having a beer garden, that also triggers police to be there as well. And if, we don't always think about it, but you need to have portable restrooms there, or the health department will let you know how many you need. If you're having alcohol, that generally speaking doubles the amount of portable restrooms you need to have available as well. Becky sort of went over this a little bit. We want to see your health plan. This is something new that we generally didn't ask for before with special events. But if you could just send me a little blurb as to what your plan is for keeping your people who are attending events safe and your staff who may be there or volunteers. I'll take a look at it, send it along to Becky and probably Brian then at the health department to make sure you're all set, and you can go over that at a special events meeting as well. Traffic and parking. So for state roads, Bruce Fisher is your guy. He's been really nice and generally speaking will fill out the permit for you if you want to close down a state road. He said it's easier because the state prefers to see that the city is aware of you asking to close down a state road. And this also takes a little bit of time. It's out of the city's control. So as it says here, 60 to 90 days in advance is when you want to start looking at that if you'd like to close a state road in New Haven. Anything that's a major arterial, there is a list there with the link that has to go through the entire Board of Alders. So when I spoke with Mr. Lucas, the Director of Legislative Services, he suggested that how you do this is you write a letter addressed to President Walker Myers explaining your event and what major arterial you would like to close down. And then she will bring that to the full board for full board approval for you to close down a major arterial. So if you'd like no parking postings, you can call the day before and they'll put post the signs for you. That's the phone number there. Generally, that's not for people going to your event to be able to park there. It's if you need to get a food truck in or you need staff to be able to park somewhere to unload things, that's usually what they use for no parking. Police and fire. I used to have anything over 100 people attend a special events meeting, so police and fire could go over a plan with you. Generally speaking, I've been having everybody, no matter your size of your event right now, come and speak with us at a special events meeting just because everything is so new. But when you attend a meeting, you can go over with police and fire representatives will be there, and they can go over with you if you will need an officer to help with a street closure. Sometimes they can do that with police on bikes or on motors, and the fire department will go over with you if they believe you should have medical services there. That's usually triggered if it's a lot of people or if there's like 5Ks, they like to have medical services there just in case they're needed. So they will go over that with you if there's a need for that. The infamous meeting I keep talking about is right here. So a special events committee is comprised of police, fire, health, traffic and parking, the Parks Department, Permit and License Center. We get everybody virtually in a room now. And that's where you get to ask your questions. They'll ask you plenty of questions about the plan for your event. You can go through your route. The only thing that I ask is before you come to a special events meeting, if I don't have your permit yet, sometimes you may want to ask questions at the meeting before you put your permit through. At least send me if you have a route or a flyer or whatever the plan is, so I can share it with the team while we're going over the meeting. And my email is listed there. You can let me know, and I will also send you the Zoom link to attend the meeting. Yeah. And then miscellaneous, there's a couple things. If you want a large tent or need a large tent for your event, that requires a building permit, and they'll come out and inspect your tent. That's also on City Square. You can apply for it right online. Same thing with an electrical permit if you need that, or any sort of electrical services generator, that's also online as well. And then music and amplified speakers, there are requirements from the city for noise levels. So as you see, it says not to exceed 55 decibels between 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. And then there's a hard stop there, and then nothing in parks before 11. And then there's a zoning map listed there that you can check and see what zone you're planning to have your event in for noise purposes.
Just one other that's not on there is the green, the prohibition on noise is until 1 o'clock on Sundays.
Yes, church is on the green, as many of you know. So I believe that's it for me. Elena, am I good? All right, Adrian, I believe you're up.
Hi, good morning, everybody, and happy Friday. First, I really just want to commend everyone, both my colleagues on this panel and also all of you, for the fluidity and the shifting that has needed to be done ever since the pandemic has began up until this point. I know it has not been easy, but we are making our way through. And so with that said, I'm going to go over some examples of what some people and organizations have done in order to move forward with their events during the course of the pandemic. If we can get to the first slide. So as many of you may know, usually on Memorial Day, the Veteran Affairs Committee has a big ceremony with singing and speeches, and the mayor always comes and gives a speech as well. And unfortunately, this year, they were not able to do it the way they usually have. But what they did do was a very small ceremony with about 5 people, and they conducted a laying of the wreath ceremony at the Great War Flagpole on the New Haven Green. And they also went to the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Park on Long Wharf to do a small ceremony there. They worked closely with us at City Hall to do the flag blunting that typically would take place for their ceremony anyways. And they followed all of the restrictions and protocols that were in place to follow the social distancing guidelines, effective mask wearing, and just adhering to the number that was allowed for outdoor gatherings at that time. So I thought that they did a really good job at just, again, being very fluid. Another example is the Pride Center. You know, every year, the Pride Center is known for doing their Pride Parade. And in lieu of that, this year, they decided to go completely virtual. So they used the entire Pride Month to have virtual online workshops and conferences. And then they also worked with the city to be able to do a Pride flag raising on the first day of Pride Month. And we also had the mayor on the green giving a speech while the rest of the ceremony was held virtually with different panelists and different workshops for them to be able to celebrate the month of Pride. They used Zoom and they also used Yardstream. So I would encourage you to not just look into Zoom, but look into different platforms that you will be able to utilize in order to go virtual. Yardstream is a really great product to use because it also allows you to broad stream live and go to be on YouTube, be on Facebook, be on Instagram at the same time that you're engaging your audience on many different platforms. So they did a great job. Going on to the next slide, we have movies in the park. I actually believe this is going to start this week. This weekend.
I think they're going to postpone tonight due to the rain.
Oh, okay. So next weekend, I guess then, right, Becky?
More than likely. Weather dependent.
Okay. So with this, the guests must wear face coverings that conceal both the mouth and the nose, and they can only take it off when you're at least 6 feet of distance from the other party. Frequent hand disinfecting and using hand sanitizer is a requirement in order to be able to participate in movies in the park. And then when we go over to the next slide, we're able to see a map. And this map actually displays how the groups will be sure to maintain social and physical distancing. Also, before the showing, there's going to be frequent audio announcements, and the announcements will go over the rules so that everyone is clear on the guidelines and the protocols in place in order to keep everyone safe and healthy. The rules will also be posted around the park so that, you know, if you're not hearing it, you're definitely seeing it. And again, hand sanitizer and cleaning supplies will be available, and it is required that people are using the hand sanitizers as well. So Art Walk, you know, we know them for doing, you know, this is usually a free annual community-based arts festival that usually spans 3 blocks in the historic Westville Village in Edgewood Park. And they went completely virtual this year. They were able to highlight the different artists and the activities happening by capturing it on camera and then streaming it and broadcasting it live to an audience. And same thing for International Festival of Arts and Ideas. We know them for doing their really big festival every summer. And in lieu of that, this year they went completely online and they were able to work with local restaurants, storytellers, idea thinkers to cover a variety of topics virtually that people would be interested in and that would engage the audience. And they also conducted a program called Arts on Call. This program allowed for artists to be booked by different people in the community, and the artists would go and perform outside by practicing effective social distancing per the guidelines and be able to bring a little joy to the family and friends by giving a live performance to the individuals they would performing for. I thought that program in particular was really, really great because I think during a time when, you know, things might be a little difficult, we were able to bring joy into people's lives. So yeah, everyone did a good job again with just shifting and being fluid and finding new ways to really figure out the way events can work. And what we've seen is a combination of pretty hybrid. So some outside gathering, following the protocols, but also still using virtual options. And I think that's about it for me. don't think there's anything else. Yeah. So back to Becky.
So you will see, if you go to the city's homepage now, there is a link to the event planning guide. You can do, it's under the I'd like to plan an event tab. You can get all of this information there. We'll also post the presentation, and most of this webinar was recorded, so we'll post that too. I had some technical difficulties and did not hit record when I thought I did. So we're gonna turn it over to questions now. And I saw a hand raised. There we go. And I'm going to put you on unmute for the first question. Web Tesma? I believe you're unmuted. You need to unmute yourself as well, though. Web, can you hear us?
You hear me?
Yes.
Hello? You hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you.
I just submitted for my restaurant, La Libera restaurant, on the patio, on the side adjacent to my restaurant, on two city-owned street parkings, and I applied on the square.com dashboard 2-3 days ago. Now I want the process is slow. I don't have any business inside. Every customer comes, they want to sit outside. Really, I'm really hurt. How to expedite this outdoor sitting?
I'll turn that over to Mike, as outdoor dining is a little different process than the special events permits.
First of all, thank you for jumping on the webinar. Put your email address in the chat bar so I can follow up with you afterward, and we'll dig it out of the system and see how we can just review and make sure the plan is in order to get you up and running, okay?
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, next up is Fred Brown. Fred, you're gonna, there you go.
Hello?
We lost you, Fred, hold on.
Are we there?
Yes.
Okay, hi. I appreciate everyone doing what they do. You work very hard. I'm with the Peace Commission, and I was approached by a friend in the music business who wants to have a nice big concert on the green. And I was hoping to line it up with the International Day of Peace, which is in September 21st. On the 20th would be a Sunday. That would be great. So anyways, I'm trying to answer this guy's question, how can we do this? And it's all good. And I'm getting there. I'm learning to connect with other people here. But one thing, I get a lot of information from this webinar, and I'm trying to fit a budget. But what I'm not getting from, or how could I come up with the numbers? In other words, how much does it cost for the police? How much does it cost for the restrooms? I mean, we could take care of a lot of other things, but I'm trying to get the actual numbers down. And do I have to get a park permit? Do we go through that way? It's very confusing, and I'm trying to answer this gentleman's question in a proper format, and it's just getting tough, I mean. But how I feel about it is, a lot of things are canceled, and a New Haven Green would be perfect. I mean, I know we still have a long way to go in this pandemic. Our numbers are doing very well, and perhaps, just perhaps, I'd like to think positive. 2 months away that's a pretty good. Hopefully that we'll get into a safe spot. And we could do this. And I respect the fact that everybody has to, be the social distancing even after too, a little bit, And but can anybody tell me, how do I get the numbers so I could put my budget together for this. In other words, like I say again, how much do I have to call up these restroom companies, or does the city have a certain company they work with? You know, the police department, how much do the police cost?
Hey, Fred,
Yeah.
thanks so much for looking at something for Peace Day. I mean, that's going to be a real special month for the city with the Lanson Memorial and the work that you're doing. What I would suggest, I think what we're learning through the process is a lot of people are working back from the forecast attendance, the number of people, and maybe, I don't know, maybe you and Kim offline, since Kim's probably one of our best events planners on the call, can dimension how best to put a budget together for you. Because that'd be a really nice weekend for the city if you could put something together.
Yeah, you know, so far I have a lot of support, and I don't know if you're familiar with the music arena in New Haven, but there's a Horizon Studios. It's Nick Steffens is the engineer and my friend, good friend, and he approached me about this, and you know, he says, "You're with the Peace Commission. Is there any way that you can help out or something?" Well, that's what started me going. And I think I've been involved with the Peace Festival, with the West River community for the past 10 years, along with Stacy Spell and his wife, Virginia. And they canceled. I know the community covers that. They canceled. I think the Gulf Street Park, they canceled. And I tell you the truth, the world needs more peace. New Haven is a peace messenger city. It's underwritten by United Nations. This would be a great thing if we could pull it off. And I'd gladly work with anybody that we could do it. But another thing too, the time wise, it takes a good 3 months to put on a good production, and time is of essence and everything. And Horizon is willing to step up and go out and find funding for this and get funding, and they're 1,000% committed to it.
Let's get you with Kim to work on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's go. We also have to get to some other questions, but Fred brings up something really interesting. If people haven't been out to the Peace Garden in West River, it's really beautiful, and the neighborhood there does such a nice job of putting it together and maintaining it. It's a great thing to do with your family. So you and Kim go offline on that one, so make sure we get through all these other questions as well.
All right, moving on to Keith Meller. You're gonna have to unmute yourself as well.
Greetings, happy day, how are you?
Thank you.
Good morning, thanks for hosting this little soiree. As you all know, New Haven Center for Performing Arts is probably the largest producer of live events in New Haven. We are working diligently at the former tennis center, now Westville Music Bowl, and obviously everything has been moved to next year. We have made arrangements for some ground up in Litchfield County for outdoor open air shows. We keep hearing from the state that they were going to issue orders up until this past Sunday even, for larger scale capacities with appropriate social distancing. Dare I ask if you guys heard anything more about this, or is anything going on with it?
They did freeze that next phase, which would be phase 3, that would increase the socially distant outdoor events. So we're still, for public events, at that 500 threshold.
Got it. Thank you.
No problem. Then Aisha Harris, apologize if I got your name wrong. You're gonna have to unmute yourself as well. Aisha, if you are on phone audio, you might want to hit *6. Aisha, if you want to type your question into the chat, maybe that will work for us. All right. Does anybody else
Can
have?
you hear me? I'm sorry, this is Aisha. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Oh, that was crazy. Oh, okay. So listen, I just heard the last gentleman's question. So what it is Bereavement Care Network. I'm a member of Bereavement Care Network, and we cater to victims of homicide in New Haven. And we're planning on having our rally. We normally have a peace march rally, but since the social distancing and pandemic is taking place, unfortunately, we can't do the whole thing. However, we were still planning on having the rally, and I guess I wanted to know, like, what is the numbers that we can have allowed in the park if if we're able to have the rally in the park at Gulf Street on September the 26th. What is the limitation for people to be out there?
So Aisha, what we can do is work with you offline to calculate the number of people that can safely sit in the park there. Similar to the Clinton Avenue field setup that you saw for movies, we can do the setup out at Gulf Street, which is a bit larger, that will get you, over 100 people easily.
Okay, fair enough. We just wanted to make sure that, we were going to be following the guidelines and staying within, the codes and things of that nature.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you so much.
No problem. Any other questions? I think we have Wub again.
Yeah, thank you again. Just, I want to say thank you, special thank you to the town ambassadors. Every day they come to my restaurant asking me how we're doing, how they can help our restaurant. So I'm really, really happy the way we serve our community. I want to thank you to them for the ambassadors of the town. That's what I want to say. Thank you.
That means a lot. We'll make sure they're aware. Well,
yeah, they are really good people. Thank you.
All right, Gorman Featured. I apologize if I got your name wrong. You're up next.
It's Bashard. That's fine. No worries. Yeah, I am the executive director of NH Docs, the New Haven Documentary Film Festival. And originally we were planning on running our festival in June, as we always do, but we've pushed it to August 18th. And I'm well aware that probably more than 50% of it will be online, which is easy for a film festival. But we are still trying to plan a few live events. And we've been working with the Arts Council of Greater New Haven about hopefully using the Park of the Arts behind a neighborhood music school and Coffee ? On Audubon Street. What sort of permits would we need if we were doing a very small audience screening in that space?
So that's a private space, correct?
Correct.
So if it's open to the public and there's going to be a plan for over 50 people, you will need a special events permit.
If we limit it to under 50 and it was all very ticketed and we controlled the ins and outs and exits and entrances and so forth, what about then?
My suggestion is still just to do a special events permit. You don't have to,
Mm-hmm.
but it's usually preferred if you're having a ticketed event and you're not maybe sure if it's going to be over 50. It's just nice for the city to see your plans and stuff, but
Gotcha.
there's no requirement under 50 on a private property that's ticketed.
Kayla, can you send me your email address so we can just be in touch, since it's going to be coming up soon? If it is, it's going to be starting the week of August 18th.
Yes, I will put it in the chat right now, and then you can attend a special events committee meeting and ask all those questions of everyone else too, if that helps.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
And I know the permitting process seems scary, but it's a couple of clicks online. It's not as big of a deal.
Okay, yeah, and we definitely want to keep, really that's why we're doing ticketed, so we're going to really limit the people who can come. So my feeling was if our maximum was 50, I was probably going to do a 40 limit. So there was no questions.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right. Any last questions before we wrap up? Really appreciate you all coming to this webinar and continuing to think about how we activate our city in a safe and health conscious manner during this time. All of our large scale events have been canceled for this year, and we're really, happy to work with folks on the small scale events to make sure that they are health conscious and impactful. So please feel free to reach out to the folks on the panel today, and we're happy to be of assistance. Again, thank you so much. Any last words from our panelists?
I think we're good. Thank you all. You guys did a great job pulling this together, and thank you to everyone who attended today. Have a great weekend, everyone.